So the bottom left quadrant is what I call the dominate quadrant. This is when you have a relatively weak foe and you keep them in check with a very low level set of competitive actions. Uh, some examples of this that I think you could say today is arguably Sears and Penny's right now are the dominated competitors in the retailing space. I think you could probably also consider Yahoo as being dominated by Google. I really think Google could take them out anytime they wanted. They just choose not to want to. Why is it good to allow a competitor to just be dominated as opposed to take them out? So the way I like to phrase it is it's like you're taking their oxygen hose and you're squeezing it, but you're not clamping it off such that they die. There are two reasons why it's good to allow dominated competitors to remain. One is that it is politically correct. It seems to be the nice thing to do. You don't get in trouble. You don't get antitrust regulators breathing down your neck. You don't have customers boycotting you because you were mean to company X and the like. You don't get a bad name in the press reputation. But in reality, this dominated competitor poses no threat to you because anytime they do look like they're starting to get up and get on your chili, then you just slap them a little bit harder and hold them down. The second reason that it's good to dominate versus take someone out is because it creates this impression of faux competition, which I've talked about before. But importantly, it keeps new entrants out of the space. Anybody looking at that industry might not realize how profitable you are vis-a-vis your competitors, and the fact that they're there makes it harder for new people to enter. So it's a matter of keeping the weak guy around to keep somebody potentially stronger from entering the industry. But there is a danger here. About 15 years ago, there was a dominated competitor that was on the verge of bankruptcy, to the point where they went with kind of went to a long-time rival and asked for a large infusion of capital to keep them afloat. That company that did so, that did infuse the capital's name is Microsoft. The company that was the beneficiary of this lifeline, Apple. Don't you think Microsoft would like to have that one to do over again? So that's the danger of letting a dominated competitor hang around, is one day you may lose control of that oxygen hose and they come back up to bite you. Well, what can you do to keep that from happening? This is where you move over one quadrant into the defeat quadrant and you just ramp up the intensity attack and you basically say, I am going to drive you out of business completely, or I am going to drive you out of this market. You can find lots of good examples of this with smaller companies and smaller markets and the like, but we tend to know the big companies with the national markets or international markets. So let me talk about an example from that one. Linens and Things. They've been gone for several years now, but Linens and Things used to be a Bed Bath & Beyond lookalike. Linens and Things had been taken private and weighted down with a lot of debt, something we'll talk about later in M&As. And Bed Bath & Beyond knew this. They were having a hard time servicing all the debt they had taken on. So Linens and Things targeted 60 markets where they thought they had the best chance of turning things around and generating substantial profits. And they went in with heavy discounting into these 60 markets. Through some feat of competitive intelligence, Bed Bath & Beyond knew they were relying on these 60 markets, and Bed Bath & Beyond was the irrational competitor. When Linens and Things offered a small discount, Bed Bath & Beyond offered a big discount. And they said, in essence, we're both going to bleed here, but I know that I'm a lot healthier than you are, so you'll die before I will. And that's exactly what happened. Linens and Things did go out of business, and in the midst of the 2008 recession, Bed Bath & Beyond market share and profits soared. 2008 was a great year for Bed Bath & Beyond, whereas it was a terrible year for most companies. So that's the benefit of taking someone out, is you get their market share, you typically raise prices, and to the victor go the spoils. Now, if you get it wrong, and that person has a lot more resiliency than you thought, you've both bled a lot of red ink. The customers love you, but you're weaker, they're weaker too, but they're still around. So you didn't get the outcome that you were looking for. Let's move up now and talk about peer competitors. The next box I call skirmish. Relatively low intensity against relatively equally matched companies. I think this is what you see most of the time in the business today. There's skirmishing going on, and at the end of the day, the battle lines aren't going to shift very much. So an example of that is the insurance companies I talked about before and all the advertising they are doing. We've got the Gecko, we've got Flow, we've got the horrible singers of Nationwide, we've got the State Farm guy, we've got the Mayhem guy. All of these, and then for my insurance company, we got USAA saying we know what it means to serve. And they're advertising on NFL games, which I know is hugely expensive. Frankly, I can't quite figure that one out. So they're all just kind of jockeying. Do we think they've grown the insurance market? No. Do I think they've shifted the battle lines much? No. They've just spent a reasonable amount, or I shouldn't say reasonable. They spent a relatively large sum of money, and everybody's still in about the same place. This is kind of the skirmishing I think that you see happen a lot. And then lastly, you see when a couple of equally balanced foes go after it to really try to change that equal balance, and that's war. And the outcome in this is when you're trying to really put that, in essence, push that rival down into the dominated category. You're trying to rearrange the strategic makeup. And today, I believe there is a war going on before our very eyes, and that's Walmart versus Amazon. We know that Walmart's the largest bricks and mortar retail in the world, and Amazon is the largest internet-only retailer in the world. And Walmart has made it very clear they're not happy with that arrangement. They want to dominate both spaces. And so you can see them going at it with their various offerings. Walmart slashes the price of books. Amazon goes out and signs a host of publishing companies into their portfolio and promptly refuses to sell books to Walmart. So this is going to play out, but you see these companies investing a lot of money to try to take each other on, to cement their positions vis-a-vis each other, or to maintain their areas of superiority and try to move into the other guy's space. So these are, you don't see wars very often, but they're sure interesting to watch. And we'll continue to watch these play out. Another pair of companies I think that could be involved in a war today are Samsung and Apple. Was they get in all these patent wars? I think they're really contesting the future of mobile computing, and they're trying to go after each other. Incidentally, the patent wars is a type of resource battle, as they're trying to deny them certain the right to use certain patents, which is also a way to say they're trying to make them pay revenues to each other. So this is the strategy. I think in many cases, firms don't have a great competitive strategy. They're just kind of along for the ride. They're in that skirmish area, but I would like you to think about, how do firms match up against each other? Can I place what actions they're taking, and can I imagine the type of outcome they're looking for? And this is why I have a problem with strategy, strategic versus tactical actions. To me, this is strategy. What do I want to get out of the competitive campaign I'm about to launch? Next slide, we're going to talk about trying to put all this together into some actionable steps. See you in a minute.